You ever have one of those nights where you're dead asleep dreaming about nothing and the phone rings so loud and sudden your heart just about jumps out of your chest? Yeah, that was me. 2:17 in the morning, and I'll tell you right now, I'd rather get a call about a national crisis or a hostage standoff. Anything but what I heard that night, which honestly still doesn't feel real when I think about it. My daughter Emma, my sweet, stubborn, brilliant kid, her voice was shaking so bad I barely recognized it. Dad, I need help. I'm in jail. The HOA president pressed charges. They're saying I could go to prison for 10 years. Now you gotta understand, I'm the U.S. Attorney General. I've stared down cartel bosses and crooked senators, but nothing. Nothing hits you in the gut, like hearing your disabled kid is locked up, sobbing on the other end of the line, terrified and alone. Emma's got cerebral palsy, uses a wheelchair, sometimes struggles to get her words out, but she's sharp as a tack, studying environmental science, worked her tail off to rent her first place in this fancy gated community called Sunset Valley. She just wanted a little independence, you know. But from day one, Margaret Richardson, the HOA president, if you want to call her that, had it out for Emma. Complained about the wheelchair ramp, about the parking spot marked handicapped, even the way Emma would park her car. And now somehow my kid's in jail. I told her to sit tight and called my driver. You know, there's nothing lonelier than flying down empty streets in the dead of night, every streetlight flickering by while you run through worst-case scenarios in your head, wondering how the hell this could be happening. By the time Emma's lawyer Martinez called, I was a mess of anger and panic. Sir, Mrs. Richardson is saying your daughter threatened her and vandalized the HOA gatehouse. The local DA is pressing for max charges up to 10 years. 10 years. For what? Using a wheelchair in the wrong zip code. There's supposed to be video, and Richardson's already got statements from neighbors. The prosecutor's not backing down. When I finally saw Emma, she looked so small and vulnerable, sitting there in her wheelchair, hugging herself in a thin sweater, red-eyed and trembling. She reached out and I squeezed her hand through the bars, fighting every urge to rage against the universe. Tell me everything, honey. Don't leave out a single detail. She took a breath, one of those long, shaky ones, and said it started 3 months ago, the day she moved in. Margaret Richardson made her life hell from the jump, nitpicking every little thing, always looking for a reason to complain. But that night, it got ugly. Emma had to use the only wheelchair-accessible entrance, the handicap gate, as they called it, but Mrs. Richardson was waiting, arms folded, eyes hard as nails. She said Emma was breaking the rules using the gate after 6 p.m. Can you believe that? Like accessibility only exists in daylight hours. Emma tried to show her the federal disability law on her phone, but Richardson just doubled down, saying disabled people shouldn't expect special treatment. Richardson blocked Emma with her own body, wouldn't let her through, told her to use the main entrance, which, by the way, is stairs. Emma can't use stairs. She explained that, but Richardson didn't care. If you want to live in a normal community, follow normal rules, she said. God, hearing that, I felt sick. Emma tried to maneuver around, but her wheelchair caught on the old wooden gate, made the whole thing shake. Richardson started yelling that Emma was destroying community property, called the cops, and next thing you know, Emma's being cuffed like a criminal. Did you threaten her? I asked. Emma looked at me like I'd grown a second head. No, Dad, never. I just said, you don't want to make this a bigger problem? I meant legally, like a discrimination complaint, not a threat. But she twisted it. That's the moment I knew we weren't just fighting a petty neighbor dispute. We were up against something way nastier. Good old-fashioned ableism dressed up in HOA rules and local politics. Next morning, Martinez laid it out. Richardson had statements from neighbors, probably her pals, who said Emma aggressively approached the gatehouse and damaged it on purpose. The DA was painting Emma as a con artist, using her disability to manipulate the system. I could barely keep my mouth shut. Emma doesn't manipulate anybody, I said. But Martinez shook her head. We're fighting bias, not facts. Richardson's selling herself as a victim of disability fraud. And the prosecutor's hungry for headlines. Let me back up a sec. Being Attorney General means I could have thrown my weight around, called in favors, gotten the DA to back off. But that would have made things worse. I had to play this as a father, not as the top cop. So I sat there in the crowded courtroom, listening to neighbors mutter and glare, the tension thick as soup. Some folks saw Emma as a victim, others saw her as a troublemaker demanding special treatment. Margaret Richardson took the stand, cool as ice in her pressed suit and perfect hair. Our community maintains the highest standards, she bragged, and the handicap gate is for daytime use only. She claimed she politely asked Emma to use the main entrance, and Emma responded with hostility, waving her phone and threatening her. She claimed Emma rammed her wheelchair into the gatehouse out of spite, showing photos of a tiny crack, like Emma had bulldozed the building. Martinez was ready. Can you show us where in the bylaws this time restriction is written? Richardson fumbled, insisting it was understood community policy. Understood by whom? Martinez asked, pressing her, exposing that nothing was ever written, nothing was ever told to Emma, just arbitrary power. Richardson actually tried to claim that community standards supersede federal law. The room got quiet. Did you just say HOA rules override federal law? Martinez asked. Our community has standards, Richardson insisted, digging her own grave. Then it was Emma's turn. She was soft-spoken, fighting tears, but every word was clear. She explained how Richardson targeted her for everything: the ramp, the parking spot, the sound of her wheelchair on the sidewalk. Made her feel like she didn't belong. On the night in question, Emma was tired, just wanted to go home and finish her paper. When Richardson blocked her, Emma tried to be polite. She never threatened anybody, never meant to damage anything. When her wheelchair snagged the gate, it was an accident. She apologized. Richardson started screaming about using disability as an excuse, called the cops. By the time Emma finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. But the prosecution had a twist up their sleeve, the DA himself. Williams took the stand, grandstanding about dangerous trends and how disability claims are being used to avoid responsibility. He argued that leniency would encourage disabled people to break the law and claim discrimination. I just about lost it. The judge looked rattled. Are you suggesting disability rights are fake? She asked. I'm suggesting some people fake disability issues for special treatment, he said. That was it. I stood up, couldn't take it anymore. Your Honor, my name is Robert Morgan, U.S. Attorney General, and I'm Emma's father. The room exploded, gasps, whispers. Even Richardson went white as a sheet. What I've heard today isn't justice. It's persecution of a disabled young woman for the crime of trying to go home. The judge tried to cut me off, but I pushed on. I'm not speaking as AG. I'm a father, and I'm telling you this is discrimination, pure and simple. I turned to Richardson. You harassed my daughter. You blocked her access, twisted the story to make her a criminal. You didn't know who she was. Doesn't matter. Every disabled person deserves the same rights and respect. Then I called my chief of staff right there in the courtroom, told her to launch a full investigation into disability discrimination in Sunset Valley, get the DOJ and FBI involved. Richardson started stammering. There's been a misunderstanding. Yeah, there was. She misunderstood the law. She misunderstood who she was messing with. Williams, the DA, tried to backpedal, but I was done. You were building your career off my daughter's pain. That ends now. I formally request all charges dropped. This is disability discrimination and a violation of federal law. The judge didn't hesitate. I'm dismissing all charges immediately, and I'm ordering an ethics review of this prosecution. Richardson shot to her feet, desperate. She can't just use her father's position to get out of trouble. I just looked her dead in the eye. Emma didn't use my position. You created this. Your rules violate federal law. Your actions are discrimination, and you better call a lawyer. Weeks later, the DOJ's investigation tore the lid off. Everything turned out. Richardson had a long history of harassing disabled residents, trying to push them out. The HOA paid big in damages, had to overhaul their policies, and Richardson lost her job, personally sued for discrimination. More residents came forward telling stories of her bullying, her targeting anyone who didn't fit her standards. The DA who prosecuted Emma got slapped with an ethics investigation, and last I heard was lucky to still have a job. But the best part, Emma, after all that, stood taller than ever. She said to me one day, Dad, you know, Mrs. Richardson was right in one way. I do expect special treatment. I expect to be treated like a human being with dignity. If that's special, then maybe the problem isn't disabled people, it's that basic decency has become special. That hit me hard. Emma's case became a landmark for disability rights. She spoke at conferences, graduated with honors, landed a job at the EPA investigating environmental discrimination. And you know what? She stayed in Sunset Valley now, a place where all residents, regardless of ability, get treated with respect. Richardson moved away, and maybe she learned something about compassion, but I doubt it. If there's a moral here, it's this: sometimes the most important fights aren't about who's got the most power or the loudest voice. Sometimes it's the ones who are most vulnerable, standing their ground, refusing to be pushed aside, that change the world for everyone. Emma proved being disabled doesn't mean weak. It means strong enough to face a world that doesn't always see you. And sometimes the person you try to bully has a father who's not afraid to fight back. So let me ask you, where's the line between following rules and doing what's right? Would you have stood up or walked away? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about justice, decency, and what kind of community you want to live in. And hey, if you think this story matters, share it. Let the world know. Because justice isn't about who you are, it's about who we choose to be every single day.